How's it going, everybody? My name's Kieran, and welcome back to Producer Hive Deep Dive, the show where we take a look inside the DAW sessions of some of the most talented electronic music producers working in 2022. On the show for you today, we've got a guy that I've known for over a decade, Tim Butler, aka Special Circumstances. He makes a genre of music known as grey area, which could broadly be described as polyrhythmic, percussive, bassy, dark techno. Think Meshuggah if they made dance music. It takes a lot of complex elements and turns them into something really cohesive, textural, and most importantly, danceable. The amount of things that Tim has going on in this and still is able to keep a really clean, beautiful session, it's pretty inspiring stuff. So if you're ready to learn from one of the best producers making grey area in 2022, this is Producer Hive Deep Dive. Let's dive deep with Special Circumstances. Tim Butler, aka Special Circumstances. Thank you so much for joining us, mate. How's it going?
Good, Kizza. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Long time, mate. It's been a while since we last spoke, but really excited to get you on and take a look at it, get deep inside one of your tracks and kind of see how the whole thing came together. What's the track we're going to be looking at? Give us a little bit of the background and how was the concept formed?
Yeah, so this is a track. It's called Potential Vectors, and I wrote it last year, 2020. Basically, it was submitted to a producer, Positive Center, and his label, In Silent Series. He basically had a sample pack that he put on his Bandcamp, and like you could just use the samples in your track if you wanted to, or you could make a track using some, all, or small snippets of the samples there, and then submit a track to be considered to be released on the label. So I did that, and he loved the track that I wrote. So yeah, he was heaps keen to release that. So the idea for the track was obviously with the name there, but basically because I had to go, like I'm a teacher, and coming in to go back to teaching from COVID and that sort of stuff, there are all these potential vectors for the virus to get into the school or get whatever. So that was the idea of like these little sort of interplaying parts that sort of bounce off one another and like push into the next part, the kind of thing. So like it's sort of hard to explain, but I just had this idea in my head of like these little parts playing off each other and then gradually moving on to the next thing, and then they sort of go off from there as well. So that was the idea, but a lot of like modular as well as like the sort of samples from that sample pack. So going back and having a look at it, like there'll be parts where I'm like, I can't even remember what that bit was, but I'll do my best.
That's cool, man.
I'll do my best to try.
Yeah, beautiful. No, without further ado, let's dig into it.
Yeah,
I'm really excited to see kind of how this came together.
All right, awesome. So you should be able to see my project now in Ableton Live. I'm an Ableton Live user. So essentially, like what I do, and this is the mix, by the way. This isn't like the arrangement. This is like the final mix project, because like what I do is I tend to go through a few different stages. So I have like this is like something that I've only done pretty much since I've been in Ableton as well. Is separating the kind of creative and arrangement process with the mixing process. Like I record the arrangement live rather than sort of like trying to think, let's put like, 128 bars of drums and then try and sculpt it or whatever. I like to sort of get the arrangement done, and then I work backwards from there, because if I'm looking at like a blank page of something, it's just like, what do I do from here? If you've got those big chunks of stuff there, then you can gradually start like chiseling things away and like getting that arrangement and the detail and the shape of everything. So once I've got that sort of arrangement done and the track's like basically finished as far as the arrangement and the creative process is made, I'll bounce everything out to just individual audio tracks, and then I'll put them into like the mix session. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't finish any music. So it just helps me get stuff done in the end.
Awesome. Could we take a listen to it and let's see how it kind of all came together? So sick, dude. What would you say in your mind are the core elements of this?
Well, definitely the kick drum. 100%. That's like probably the most important part. I'd say the kick drum. Some parts of the percussion, but I'll talk about them in a sec. But yeah, basically the main sort of things I think of are the bass drum, and then these synths, like these like little sort of funky little different things that, like I said, they sort of interact with each other, and they've all you hear them individually and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it doesn't really sort of work by itself. So they sort of need these other little parts for them to work, and like I sort of try and fit little bits in that, like I look at it like a rhythmic melody in a way, where it's like, these different rhythms, but I'll drop in like one that's from a different timbre or a different type of instrument or something like that, so it creates this interest. But yeah, that's definitely like the kick drum, and then these elements, and then the percussion, so that sort of drives the rest of the track along. So switching out different hats, and so I've got like my 16th hats here, for example, that come in. So we've got like the kick drum sort of rolling, and then like these hats come in like that, and it just sort of like keeps pushing the track forward. That's sort of like part of the like moving percussion in and out, is sort of pushing and pulling things around. And then there's this like, obviously the offbeat hat is where things go to the next level. You need that, it just again pushes the track forward. It's not like, just gives you some momentum. And then together with like the 16s, and then I've got like this like these other little bits. I've got like this little bleepy thing, and then like a clave. So like this part only comes in once, this clave, but it just needed to be in there, so. And then, so it's just like it's just building this sort of like percussion interest. Then there's this part, and that only comes in once, that doesn't come back again. But it's just like, where do you want things to be intense, and where do you want things to sort of pull back a bit as well? Like you think about where you want to layer the percussion in and that, and it's like when you put it in there, you're like, oh, that's what that needed. So percussion is just so important, particularly for this type of music, but any type of music really. The rhythms in this are quite simple. I'm not doing anything too rhythmically complex or anything like that, apart from like the time signatures 3/4. That's nothing too complex, but I try not to make it sound like it's 3/4, if that makes sense. I try to keep it like a sort of 4/4 feel, but so like it has that one less beat per bar, which sort of makes it a bit more intriguing in a way. But yeah, it's just all those little sort of percussion elements that really really tie the whole track together, and they're the things that really push and pull the track along. And
can
then
you
you've
show
got
us the can you show us the synth
yeah,
lines
so I've got
and how they play
synths.
together?
So most of this stuff was like modular or the TTSH, which is this guy.
Ooh, beautiful.
Yeah, so a lot of it was that too. But yeah, mostly like the Euro rack and a bit of TTSH in there. So the first riff is this thing here. Whoop. Yeah, that's TTSH. So it's just like a little sort of nothing amazing. It's just like a little synth part. Like obviously, like there's all my mix processing here, but then there's the creative parts as well, which is like the delays. So that's a little delay on there, and then a bit of I'll talk about my reverb process in a bit. But yeah, look, there's not a lot. I probably did a little bit more processing. So what I'll do is like this is like probably after I've done some processing on this in the creative process as well. So things like chorus and other sort of modulation and other sort of crazy plugins and stuff, I tend to use then. And then when I bounce them out to audio, it sort of pulls the CPU usage down, which is good, but it also just, it makes me commit to a sound. But yeah, so that's, that's one little thing. Then there's this, I can't even remember what this part is. Whoop, go back to the beginning. Oh yeah, it's just like a little thing. So, but if you, and then there's like this little stab again here. So I pitched that. So that was like a little sort of, I can't even remember what I made that in. I think that was it was just all like basically these modular sequences that I made, I think, that I just chopped up and just put in various but only use like tiny little snippets of them. But then this one I pitched around. So it's like, hits like one note and then a semitone down kind of thing. So it's like, but then if I put it all together, because I think originally when I did that, I just had it just at the one pitch for that little like doom ticket. But then I moved it and like had it changing in that alternating like semitone sort of thing. Which I was like, oh yeah, that's where it was. Like sometimes like it takes that and it's like, I think I was working with that in the track for probably a good few days, and then I was like, I just need to do something else. I don't know what it is, and then I did that. I was like, oh, there, that's what I needed. So it's just those little things sometimes. And then there's this spooky chord. The spooky chord's cool. Again, like with that semitone thing, and then like I can't help to have like my tracks always have to have some sort of skank. Like it's just because I don't know if it's from dubstep or listening to too much reggae or what, but most of my tracks will have some sort of like little thing like skank like that. So we come in. Have I got any automation on that? Yeah. So what I'm doing is there. Oh no, that's different. So it's just the volume, I think, or might be the filter. Yeah, I've got a bit of filter sort of as that sort of comes in. Yes. Yeah. So that's like just that little cool little skank. And then there's another, like, I love like chord stabs. Like, again, it's like probably rave, drum and bass, whatever. But like little chord stabs are really cool. Like, like that. That's the TTSH again. That's like the.
Hearing these isolated elements from the song is just so cool, man.
Cool, right? So that's got. Is that the? So that's without this. So that's the Valhalla Supermassive, which is like a cool little like reverby delay type effect. But without it, like it takes so much away. Like listen to it without it, just dry. And with it, it just opens it up so much. Again, it's like things like that. It's like I would have just had it dry there, and would have been like, "What the hell do I need? Something I don't know what." And then I just would have put a few different effects on there to sort of see what would happen. And then I, chuck that one on. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's it. That's the one." And then what else? Other synthy bits. I've got like this little. Oh yeah, it's just like a little. What was that? Whoop. Yeah, it's just like these little things, If I put that here, just those little transitions, like those transitions between different, different sections or after 16 bars or whatever. You can't just have it dry. Like it always will need something to push it to the next part of the track. Sometimes it doesn't, but I find more often than not I need something to just keep the track sort of flowing forward, I guess.
It's what feels right.
Yeah, it does. And if it doesn't, like, you'll know. So like those little edits and stuff here, like these, there was this drum fill. Oh no, there's like a little roll too. Like that. And it's like just a drum, I think it's a drum break or something like that. And I just sampled 2 different like fills from 2 different drum breaks. And that's, the drum and bass in me coming out again. So it just keeps going on again. Like those little sort of, it stops and then it keeps going, it just keeps people interested in like what's happening next. It's like, there's a drum fill. What the hell? Like what's going on now? So, I just like to keep, and it just keeps me interested as well. Like when I'm making it or listening to it, like, I like listening to my own tracks, and, I wouldn't be making music if I didn't enjoy my own music. So if I'm not liking it, then I'm not going to keep working. What else have I got? So I've got all those like little effects and stuff here. So at these first one is like a little stinger. And I can't remember which one of, like some of these were the samples from that sample pack and some weren't. Like I think it was mostly some of the percussion parts and stuff that I loaded up into samplers and made rhythms out of them and stuff. But all of these synths, that was all my stuff. I think some of these effects and the Atmos and stuff were the samples, and I just loaded them into like sampler and stretched them out, added reverb, all that sort of stuff. So those sort of like that stinger thing there. And it looks like this one, oh, no, yeah. So some effects I have on sends and some I have like on the actual tracks for reverbs, I mean. So they've got this Atmos, which is this thing. Oh, and you'll notice there's a side chaining. So basically whenever the kick drum hits, it pulls the volume down here on the side chain. And it just sort of, it does a couple of things. It sort of pulls it out of the way of the kick, but it also like creates this cool little rhythm with that Atmos sound.
That just adds another element to that kind of percussive interlockingness. Wow, that's
exactly
sick.
Right. Yeah, it just adds a bit more rhythm to it. This stinger. I can't remember what I think I made that in, I don't know, it was some synth. I can't remember what one. This little chord. What's this chord? Just some other cool sound. I think that comes after that drum Oh, before. Yeah, so it
Yeah.
just sort of accents that stop.
Yep.
And this must have been Pigments. Yeah, so I made that in the Arturia Pigments. Just a cool little sci-fi sound. Some just like crashy, swishy sort of stuff. Again, just to push things along, little sort of sweep here. Just mostly in these transitions and stuff. And this little stinger moving downwards. Yeah, you know, that sort of effectsy type stuff. I like to sort of have things moving in different directions. So if something's moving down, the filter's opening up. So like you notice the filter is getting brighter, but it's moving down in pitch at the same time. Or you might have two elements that like, you know, two pitched elements that move in opposite directions or something like that. Just creates that again. That's just interest again. And that's most of the parts. I don't think there's any other parts I really that are absolutely essential.
No, I mean, that's really eye-opening to see the way you break it down into the three core components, which is your drums, your bass, and your synths, and then you kind of I'm calling them incidentals, like the kind of little extra, the little like the spices that you're just adding to it to make sure that everything kind of is gelled and the sections of the song are kind of highlighted in the right places as well. Little bits of interest. I think that's a really, really important thing to kind of understand. Yeah,
no, it definitely keeps things interesting. That's for sure. So. Yeah, so that's the whole point. Because if it's just like the same thing over and over, it's just going to get boring. So, so yeah, look, like that's sort of like that whole process of like the different elements and things like that, and then they basically go to these groups. So all my drums go here and are processed together with what's that? That is that's the Lindell 80. So that's like a bus. Desk emulation, so it just gives it a bit of character. Saturn 2, so this is the Fab Filter Saturn. It's just like got some saturation on there just to sort of glue everything together. And then this compressor, which is the Townhouse Brainworks Townhouse bus compressor, which is modeled on the SSLG bus compressor, and it's just again glue. It just glues everything together. I do that on each track. So I've got a bit of saturation. I've got that sort of bus sort of saturation there, and I've got some transformer. Is that transformer again? Yeah, gentle transformer. So a bit of warmth, and then some bus compression. I don't use a lot of compression.
That's your signal chain for each of your groups.
Yeah, that's for my groups. Yeah. And then on each track as well. So individual tracks have different things on them. This was the process that I was working with last year, and it worked, but I've got some new stuff I've been working on that I don't do all of this, but it's cool. So I have like tape. So this is the soft tube tape, and basically every single channel has this on there to emulate kind of like, you know, it's been recorded to tape, and just gives it some like tape saturation. Then this is the kick drum. That's just the compressor for the kick drum. That doesn't have like, that's not in on every channel. I usually have a Pro Q3 on most channels, and it just sort of helps me to, it's not, I don't use it like as a color EQ. I use it more as like a corrective sort of EQ to solve problems and surgical stuff to get rid of, you know, resonances and things. But this little trick basically means that this whole bottom part here is in the middle, and everything above this point is in the sides and the middle. So it sort of like means the bottom end of the kick drum is just mono, straight down the middle. And it just sort of helps to focus the bottom end of the track. And then every like that. Oh, by the way, that's not on every channel. I don't do that for every channel. That's only for
No.
certain things. This is the Brainworks Focusrite channel strip. So it's based on a Focusrite desk. I can't remember the actual type of desk it is or whatever, but it's like I think it was Neve, Rupert Neve. It was like the desk that he worked on with Focusrite, and it was basically like a updated version of a Neve when it first came out, kind of thing. But yeah, this is their sort of thing. So I have a bunch of these different channel strips. So I've got the Focusrite one, I've got SSL, the Neve one, that sort of stuff. And I tend to, depending on what mood I'm in or what, like if it's more aggressive, like if the track's more aggressive, I'll use the Focusrite or the Neve because they've got a bit of a more like in your face sort of sound. And if something is more mellow or subtle, I tend to use the SSL just because it's not as in your face as the Focusrite stuff. Or the Neve stuff particularly, but these go on every single channel. So these are my main sort of channel EQs, and they've got some little bit of like compression and stuff like that built in. So I tend to add a little bit of compression here and there with some of these, not on everything. And it's got my low pass and high pass filters, but I don't actually have them properly engaged at the moment. And the cool thing is it's like they actually model the characteristics, like that sort of analog sort of non-linearities of each channel, and you can then specify each. So if I pull up this one here, for example, so notice how this channel number is 3 and 4, and this one's 1 and 2. So they've modeled like 72 channels of this desk, and so you can pull up, like I'll go through and like number them, and so each individual channel sounds different in a way, like just these subtle little differences. So it just gives it a more sort of kind of analog feel overall to everything. As well as the tape. So like some tape saturation and the desk channel strip emulation just sort of blend everything together, and you get like the track separation, but you also like have this overall cohesive sound that everything has, like everything's going through the same desk or whatever. So it just sort of helps to just sort of like glue everything together. And then, individual tracks get treated in different ways. Like some have different reverbs. If I'm clicking through, you can see different reverbs on each one. Some have like DSs. I'm big fan of DSs on instruments and on like things like anything harsh. It just sort of gets rid of some harshnesses and some resonances and stuff. And yeah, so that's sort of like the whole kind of mixing side of things and what I do and why I do it. So I don't use a whole lot of compression and stuff like that. Like I use like just the saturation tends to do that for me, because it's just sort of like what the saturation does is it sort of adds harmonics, but it also kind of compresses the sound in a way anyway. So what it does is sort of raises the RMS of the sound and squashes it down a bit. So it just sort of like pulls everything up without turning things up. So it just sort of adds loudness without, but keeping the headroom that you have for the mix. So that's why the saturation is there. And I tend to use saturation instead of compression. I mean, compression is important. You need to use it every now, well, not every now and then. You need to use it a fair bit. I try to avoid using it if I don't need to, So I don't have, compression on everything, or limiting.
You're just a bit more sparing with it, where the saturation is kind of helping with that, but also giving character and glue to everything.
Exactly.
So it's almost like you don't.
Yeah. So
very nice.
That's that. And then what I'll do after that, like you can see, I've got some send effects down here. So I've got like a room, particularly for my drums. I send every one of my drums to the same room reverb, because otherwise it's really dry. So if I like just solo the drums and play them back, see on this send C, that's going to this Valhalla room here. So if I like turn that off. And then I turn it back on. It's sort of, it's hard to hear like all together, but if I like individually, for example, so if I get like this little hi-hat, 16th hi-hat here. Take it off, it's really dry. If I add it on, it's just this tiny little bit of like room ambience, which like I like to sort of have that there, and it just sort of makes it feel, again, it's like everything in the same space.
Yes.
Because all these individual, like if you're recording drums or whatever, you've got that there, like, you know, you've recorded all the drums at the same time in the one room. But if you're using, you know, kick samples or synthesizer kicks or hats or whatever, they're all made with different things, and they're all like they're not in the same place. So adding that sort of little bit of room reverb there puts everything into the same space. And my synths, yeah, some of them are going to this other room. So these synths are going to this room, and it's like, I think this one's a little bit different. So here we go. Let's have a listen. So you can, that's the actual reverb sound. So if I just solo this, for example, without it, with it. Again, it's like real subtle, but it just sort of, you know, gives it a bit more life, bit more space, and it puts all these synth parts into the one spot. And then I've like got this really big black hole reverb, which I think is only on it's on all, again. So it's all these pads and stuff like that are going to the black hole, and the black hole is like this Eventide.
Yeah, show us the black hole. It sounds badass.
Reverb, it's sick. So if I go down to this guy, this little ARP stinger thing, so go back. So it's like this big reverb, but I think I've already processed that with delay and reverb beforehand as well, and then added a bit extra. But yeah, that black hole is sick. It's really cool. It's like this big, huge, ridiculously long reverb. And then like the master, like I do my own mastering when I'm just sort of like sending tracks out to people, or like playing things out or whatever, because I like to have them proper mastered. I'm not just going to chuck a limiter on there or whatever. So the way I sort of do that is I've got like, again, saturation. This is the black box, and it's this cool like saturator, and it just adds vibe, saturation, and again avoids you having to it sort of clips it, and it avoids you having to do too much compression. I've got, this needed some multi-band compression here. So basically what it's doing is just sort of like pushing the bottom end, compressing that bottom end down a little bit. And this sort of harsh area around here, it's just pulling that down a little bit when that comes in. And then I've got this mastering compressor, which just basically it really only goes to about -1, -1.5 or so, just a little bit of compression, again, just to make everything stick together. And then BX Digital, which is like a little bit of EQ, and as you can see from the EQ settings, like it's real subtle, like it's only like a tiny little bit of like bottom end boost, tiny little bit of top end boost, little bit out from these sort of harsh ranges, and then I will tend to mono everything below a certain point. Again, like there's probably overkill because I tend to do that in the mix, but I just do that just in case anything got away from me, and it just keeps that bottom end focused. It just tightens up your bottom end, and you don't. It means like when you play on a system, if the system's in mono and it collapses to mono, and like you've got phasing issues in your bottom end, particularly, that it isn't going to sound thin on a system.
Yeah, for sure. Cool.
So that's why I sort of do that, and I actually do a little bit of like this dynamic EQing as well here, and it's sort of like, again, it's a bit of de-essing, so it just sort of like smooths things out a bit. I've sort of started to have a play with this Soothe plugin, which does this sort of thing even better, but this isn't on this mix because I only just got that recently. Okay. And then so that's sort of EQing and stuff, and then like limiting. So there's sort of, I have two limiters which they sort of share the heavy lifting rather than have one limiter. So I have one to sort of push up the gain and clip a little bit, and then I have this final ozone here to maximize it and just to get that level right, get it loud enough. Like I don't like to have my tracks too loud. I like to still have some sort of dynamics, but this type of track is kind of pretty dance floor, so I want it up there, but it's not like it's hectic loud or anything. And what I do is on the final thing here, so see this true peak, that should be on, by the way. It sort of avoids clipping, and if you have it at minus 0.3, it's going to avoid sort of like this weird sort of clipping on the end and stuff like that. So I tend to have that there. And that's the whole that's the mastering chain, really. I like to sort of spend a bit of time doing that just to make sure I know it's going to sound great on a system and stuff like that. So so that's pretty much like, that's most of the track, I think. Like that's basically it. Like,
no, we've got you, mate. You've given us an incredible overview, and it's been really insightful, showing your organization, how you put tracks together, and how you get just the elements to sort of interlock. Keep interest, phrasing, really fascinating. Mate, I can't thank you enough for kind of walking us through this. Can't wait to get the full release when it comes out. And what other releases do you have in the pipeline? I know you said you've sort of taken a bit of a break from production, but what's sort of on the radar for you, mate?
I have been working on some stuff. I've started a couple of like electro. I finished actually one. I finished an electro track, and I've sort of been working on a couple more electro tunes. So just something a bit different, I will get back into doing this sort of grey area techno-y sort of stuff as well. It's definitely not the end of that for me, but I've been sort of solidly working on this stuff for about 5 years, and I just needed to do something different, I think. But so I got a couple of those that I've just been working on, and I'll just keep writing, and then we'll see where we go from there. But there'll definitely be some releases next year from me, that's for sure.
Exciting stuff. Listen, Tim, Special Circumstances, it's been an absolute pleasure. Make sure you go follow him everywhere. Links in the description down below. If you've liked this, make sure you're giving him a follow. Mate, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Kieran. Cheers, mate.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed that. While you're here, why don't you check out some of the other videos on the channel? There's a ton more production talk going on, and we're going to have more of these being uploaded in the very near future. So make sure you subscribe to the Producer Hive channel. Check out the website. I've been Kieran Helmore, Producer Hive Deep Dive. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.